My name is Adam Mize. I work for Caterpillar. I have for 25 years now in several different places, several states around the country. It's been an awesome opportunity for my family and I. I'm married to a beautiful bride, Libby. We have two amazing children, Jordan and Aiden, who are in the high school at the LSA right now. I'm one of those people that really enjoy what I do. It's challenging work, but most of all, it gives me the opportunity to provide for my family in a way that honors God and helps people. And I get to do that all of the time.
You mentioned honoring God. I wonder, how have you seen God use you in your role or different roles throughout your time at Caterpillar over these years?
Yeah, great question. I think all of us are called to be the children of God, to share God's message, and we all have unique opportunities to do that. In my position, I get to show God's love to people every day. It's not a formal ministry like yours. Or a ministry that a lot of others are in. But I get the opportunity to see people often that are far from God and help them see Christ through me, help them to see Christ maybe in a different way.
Yeah. So what are some of the ways that you do that? How do you help them see Christ through you? I'm sure it's not always big things, but sometimes little things. So what are some of the ways you do that?
Yeah, since I've been trying, and this has not always been my story. As you know, I've not always been a Christ follower. I was I would have checked the Christian box early in my life, but I was making no effort to follow Christ. In fact, it wasn't until halfway through this career of mine that I really started to follow Christ in any meaningful way. And when I started to really commit myself to following Christ, I had to figure out what's it mean from a workplace perspective, from a leader perspective. I work in an industry that's in a secular, worldly industry. What's it mean to be a Christ follower in that setting? And at the time, I got a lot of advice. Some of it was good, and a lot of it was not. I got a lot of advice to, hey, you have to leave your spiritual life at home. That's not. There's no place for that in the workplace, and that was some of the worst advice that I got. And interestingly, at the same time, I was getting advice like, Adam, we love when you talk about your family and going camping with your boys and things like that. It humanizes you. So it was. I was getting advice to talk about the second most important thing in my life, but being advised not to talk about the first most. So I, for a while, I tried the job of closet Christ follower. That felt inauthentic. One of my favorite pastors, other than you, brother, is Craig Groeschel, and he ends his leadership podcast with reminding his listeners to be themselves. People would rather follow someone who's always real than someone who's always right. And to me, being authentic meant that I was going to have to come out of the closet about my faith. I was going to talk about it. I wasn't going to insist that everybody around me believed as I did. In fact, I love diversity, and I love diversity in thought and diversity in all aspects. I think we solve the hard problems in the world, in business and in the world with diverse opinions. So I love the diversity of thought and opinion, but I was going to be completely me. I was going to lead with, when somebody asked about me, I was gonna tell them I was a Jesus freak. I am following this man named Christ and doing it wholeheartedly. I love my family and I love Jesus. That's who I am.
Yeah, I love that, because that is that is really where we get caught, is this where we feel like I gotta hide myself in here, right? And yet that's not what we're called to. We're called a life of wholeness, of of living out who we are in all of life.
Exactly.
And I love that. I love how you explained your journey to that. What challenges have you faced as you've sought to do that? I mean, you kind of alluded to some of that, but what are some of the challenges you faced in living that out and figuring out how to best live that out?
Yeah, so great question. I would say, first of all, it was bad advice. I was getting bad advice from people who were inauthentic in themselves, or who were still trying to search themselves. And like I said, I tried to follow some of that advice for a while, but it didn't feel right. The second of which was really just the challenge that I've had, and I continue to struggle with, is really just fear. So I had to overcome that fear, and the truth is, I still do. It's not the fear of being fired anymore. All of that was all of that was false fears anyway. I should have never worried about those things. Now it's mostly the fear of what somebody else will think. So as I said before, I'm outwardly a Christ follower, and I apologize quickly when I mess up, and I do a lot. And I try to love completely everybody all the time, to the point where I get questioned at work. I came into a meeting the other day, and it's our daily production meeting, and it's usually pretty high tension, and there's a lot, and everybody's expected to be prepared and accountable, and I walked into it with a great big smile on my face, talking kindly to people, and one guy asked me, said, he was a Middle Eastern guy that's just incredibly smart, but not a Christian. He said, "Adam, why are you always so happy at these? Why are you always so happy?" And I told him in front of the team, I said, I have a peace that surpasses all understanding. He got it right away.
Yeah.
Some of the others in the group got it, and he's just like, yeah, all right. And that's just an opportunity to let people know where my peace comes from.
Yeah.
It's not from getting everything right at work or getting everything right at home. If it was, I would be miserable a lot of the time. Yeah. I make bad decisions at work, and I say mean things to my wife and to my kids, and I don't always live out the life that I've been called to. But I keep trying, and I apologize quickly when I mess up.
Have you ever seen, those little things like that lead to other opportunities to be able to have a deeper conversation with someone?
Sure. So an example, again, just from a couple of days ago, and this is an example, but I've similar situations tons of times. So Mary came into my office, and Mary works for somebody who works for somebody who works for me. I didn't even really recognize her, except I saw her badge. I've gotten pretty good about things like that. I saw her badge on the way in, and then I remembered who she was, and she works on one of our docks. And Mary came in, and she was distraught, and I could tell. And she's like, "Adam, I may have to quit." And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that, Mary. Tell me more." And she said, "Well, I'm having these problems. I need to take off on Friday, and my supervisor told me that I'm out of days off, and or whatever." And I said, "Mary, he was probably just telling you what the rules are, but I'm sure we will figure something out. If I need to go down and man the dock for you, I will." And I think both of us smiled a little bit, knowing that I really couldn't do her job, and wondering if the other person knew. But and she was a little bit taken back, and she just said, "Thank you." And I could tell that relieved her a little bit. And I said, "Mary, would you mind telling me more? What's going on?" And she went on to she opened up, and and she said some things that were going on with her family that were really heartbreaking. And one, I listened to her, and at the end I said, "Mary, can I pray for you and for your family?" And she, again, she was a little bit taken. And then she said, yeah, that would be really nice. And that was just the next opening I was looking for. And I said, Mary, can we pray right now? And again, she was a little bit taken. I think it'd been a while since she'd prayed, prayed authentically, prayed out loud. And she said, okay. And I knew she was a little bit nervous, so I just took over from there, and I put my hand on her shoulder, and we prayed together. And at the end of that, she was like, it's been a while since I've prayed, but it's been a while since I felt this level of peace. And I was just able to kind of wrap that up with, where that peace comes from. Doesn't come from Adam. And talk to her just a little bit about Christ's love for her and for her family. And like I said, that was just one example from a few days ago, but it's amazing how many opportunities I get. Every day there are opportunities similar to that, to show Christ's love when I'm open to Him. And I still miss a lot of them, right? I still, I have more regrets than I have praiseworthy moments, but I know that He forgives me when I miss the cue, and He appreciates that I get it right sometimes.
And He always gives you another chance.
Always gives me another chance.
Say thank you. That is so awesome. I really love that story, and to see how God is working in and through you and in other people's lives. So what would you say to someone who is kind of held back right now? They're in that place of fear, or they're in that place of just not knowing what to do or what to say. They don't know how to actually live that out. How do I do that in my workplace? What would you say to them?
I'm still on the journey myself. So I'm listening just like they are right now. I am trying to, I'm praying. I am asking God to give me those opportunities. I'm asking Him to help me recognize those opportunities that He puts in front of me, and help me with the words to say and when those opportunities present themselves. The other thing I would say is, if you were considering something, you would want to consider the most authentic version of that. If you and I were considering becoming Buddhists, we wouldn't want to go to some half-hearted Buddhist and figure out what it is. We'd be like, it doesn't seem very important to that person, so it must not be very important. Other people are looking at us as Christ followers, and they're trying to figure out if there's anything to this. They're looking for answers. They're looking for hope. They're looking for a peace that they don't know. If we are not reflecting that wholeheartedly, if we are departmentalizing that, it is an unattractive faith, and it breaks my heart that too many Christians have made following Christ so unattractive. We have the most amazing God, and we have a forgiveness through Him that is breathtaking, and it's awe-inspiring, and we too often fail to share that. So I think when we realize that, when we realize this gift that we've been given, and push through some of the fear, and then get the opportunity to, and then realize that those fears were never legitimate in the first place. That was always the whisper of the enemy, trying to keep good people down, to try to, and that's how he works. That's how he tries to convince us that, Adam, you can't talk about your faith in the workplace. You're in a leadership position. You can't do that. Sure I can. That's what I would tell them, to take the next step. Look for opportunities. Pray about it. Pray that God, puts those opportunities in your path, and He will. Pray that you'll recognize Him when He does, so you can, and pray that He gives you the words to say. And then the last thing I would say is, know that you're gonna fail. You're gonna fall short. I do every day. I fall short.
Yeah.
And know that that same Jesus that I'm doing everything I can to follow forgives me every single time I fall short. And He does you too. He does all of us.
And on that, He'll even use our mistakes, because He's that awesome and that big and that great of God.
Well said, brother.
Thank you, Adam. It is always a blessing to talk with you. Thanks for talking with us today.